Hi, this is Stamford, Connecticut, in USA, from the Fairfield County Blender Meetup Group, or World Blender Meetup Day. How's it going, everyone? This is going to be a fairly informal view of a couple of things that we've been working on lately. I'm not going to be doing any special tutorials or anything, but just to show you a couple of stuff that we'll be doing. We're amateurs, we're just enthusiastic novices, and so having a bit of fun with Blender. So I'm going to start off by showing you a little video called Time Jam. So I hope the sound came across on that okay.
Yeah, it came across great.
Oh, good. So that was basically a set of photos that I took at my last workplace, GE, over a period of about 8 months, and put them together into a time lapse. And then I decided it needed some sort of a setting around it. So I created basically a small little art gallery, and with a few objects in it. Can you see this okay? Yeah, probably. With the clock on the wall, the time gem, and then just panning out and coming into the painting over here on the wall. We then, and then use GIMP to merge from a painting into a photo, play the time lapse, and then merge from the photo back into a painting again at the other end. The interesting thing on the Blender side here was that there were quite a lot of textures. I can't show them to you because all of the textures are cached all back at on my other machine. But the original rendering was taking on the order of eight hours per frame, and I baked all of the images, and we got it down to about 10 seconds. The images I didn't bake were ones that were on shiny objects, where I felt that as the light was reflecting differently as the camera was moving, it would need to move and not be baked in. So I left those as rendering on the glosses, which is just a couple of things like the reflections from the light fittings and the view through the window and things like that. I'm not sure. I've got to do some experiments on how much you can bake glossy reflections and how they still show up and how realistic they are. So that was a fun little project. As you can see, as soon as you look behind the curtain, you see how it was made. It doesn't look anything like the original. So that was fun. Okay. Next, I was going to show you another video that we're working on at the moment. I'll find it here. This is a combination of actual film and some computer graphics put into it. I'm not going to show you the computer part of it at the moment because I haven't got the whole film here. I've just got some of it. And a lot of it is a huge amount of compositing and combination of effects. I'm just going to play a bit of it here. There's no sound yet. We're adding that in, but not much. It starts off with some 2.5D where this was a single photo, but because it was a busy street and lots of things going on, with people walking past, etc., we took it out, cut out all the cars and the light poles. The only part that's 3D here is the Fairfield Pizza sign and the awning. The rest was done in 2D and just panning things across. The rest of it is just a lot of footage inside this pizza shop with the guy taking an order, a lot of cutting backwards and forwards. We had a lot of shots on the video sequence editor. This whole thing was filmed in about a day. And then we have been putting it all together afterwards. Some of the things that are not so obvious, let me just go back a little bit here. All of these cups, for example, had Pepsi logos on them, and there was logos for the title of the cash register. We took all those off and replaced it with these generic things. There was a large amount of things that are invisible that you can't see, that where we changed things to get rid of copyrighted images in multiple places. Even the cash register amount number that's showing up is digitally done so it doesn't flicker. We just took a still frame basically this year and replaced it over the top. So one of the things that we've been doing is visual effects for movies. This was our own, but we've also done visual effects for other movies as well. It's been fun just doing some minor things. This video actually has, that's where it stops because we have to do the ADR for this to get the voice replacement over the top to remove all of the background sound and clean it all up, add music, add sound effects, all the Foley, and the rest of it has some computer graphics at the end where a little twist in it. I'll leave that for now and show it, put it on Blender Artist or something after we finish. Can you guys still hear me okay? Can't hear anything.
Sorry, what was the question, Mike?
I just wanted to make sure you guys could still see all this.
Yeah, we can see all of it just fine.
And hear the sound great.
Yep,
Okay.
we can hear the soundtrack.
Fantastic.
Your microphone's a little muffled, so you want to just stay close to it.
Okay, I'll get a bit closer then, sorry. The only other thing I was going to show you was a few of the other things that we've been working on over time here. Let's have a look. I don't know where to start. This was a little logo I did for myself, a personal logo. I thought, why should only companies have logos? And I put, a few things that I'm interested in. Meant to be infinite imagination, but of course, I wish there's quite that much imagination. But it was fun. Some of these are things that I created myself, like this old style camera. This object here as well, which I have a 3D printed version of, I'll show you later. Some of them were things that I just downloaded from Blenswap and put in, like the old TARDIS, etc. This is just an example of Fluid Designer. Some of you have probably played around with this, the add-on or the standalone version that the guy produced. And just an example of how quickly you can throw things together. This took me like less than a couple of hours in Fluid Designer, which is that tool that is an add-on to Blender for parametric modeling of a lot of objects and has the smarts to know where things are, so things can be placed on the ground and on the walls and next to each other. Very handy little tool if anyone's getting into architecture. This here is a series of objects which we created for a project we were working on. We realized, and this is something that a lot of Blender users need to understand, often it's very easy to bite off more than you can chew, and that's what we did. We created a whole stack of objects. We even started getting into creating characters. We were going to have 6 characters all running around in this movie that was about, the script was 6 pages long, so it took about 6 minutes. And we finally realized there was really only 2 of us doing most of the work, and we'd bitten off more than we could chew. We spent a year in pre-production on it, so we might get back to it at some stage, but never hesitate to admit that maybe you've aspired a little bit too high. It's good to aspire for the sky, but you've got to know your own limitations as well. This is another work in progress of a spaceship that we were doing. That's just the time gem. I had to create a new version of this with GE using the same phosphate font instead of the GE logo for copyright purposes before I posted it on YouTube. But that's just for the front image. The wood texture here, I'd like to point out. Another thing that's great about the Blender community is that you don't have to make everything yourself. This is actually the CG Cookie Hardwood shader. That's a very nice, give a large number of varieties of wood and gives a very excellent texture rather than Ken Trummell did an excellent job. I think it was Ken who created it. To save you an awful lot of time having to do wood yourself. So that's one thing in this that I didn't create myself in the time lapse. This is a little fun thing I did. Whenever you open up Blender and you see the default cube sitting there, some days you're not inspired and you wonder what to do. So I saw the default cube sitting in front of me one day and I said, what if I just start extruding out the faces? Hold down the control key and snap it to incremental units of the same size as the original cube. And I'll limit myself to never going out more than 4 in any one direction. So a 4 by 4 by 4 cube. And I started playing around with the shapes and I just somehow ended up with a whole pile of letters that popped out of it, different shapes that you can make. All of these are in 3D, as you can see, and some of them come out looking better than others. But it's a fun little unusual font that you can make. And I created the whole alphabet out of it. If you take them all and, do I have it? I don't think I have it handy. If you take them all and rotate them by 90 degrees, they look completely different. And if you then rotate them back in, you can have the letters sort of like, instead of flying in from the side, they're actually there, but they don't look at anything like the words you want to say. They rotate by 90 degrees each individually, and the whole thing comes into play. They're not a very aesthetic font in a sense. They don't look anywhere nice with flowing, smooth forms. But if you limit yourself to one specific way of doing something, sometimes you come up with something that's a little bit different. So that was fun. Let's have a look here. Oh yeah. Get back into here and just open a couple of other files. Well, my daughter is 19 years old and she has a rabbit, a pet rabbit, and she wanted me to create something for her based on the rabbit. So I decided I'm going to take a rabbit and create a 3D printed version for her. Creating a rabbit from scratch is pretty hard, and you don't always have to do things from scratch. But what I did do was use a turbo squid model that I bought for $10, which didn't look anything like this rabbit, and then I had to change the modeling on it, fattened him up a lot to make him look like her rabbit. So I'm going to be taking this, the whole thing came with actually coloured version of it. I think I can show you that, maybe. The material, here we go. So we can see the whole fellow. And I'm going to be printing this using shapeways.com. It's for anyone who does any 3D printing, it uses the technique where instead of having like a hot glue gun printing like the cheaper printers does, it prints in a system where it doesn't matter what the overhangs are, you can print any shape basically that you like, even if it's completely hollow inside, and it prints it fine. It even has a full color version so you can print it with color. So I'm going to be taking this guy, adding holes in the bottom of him and putting a solidify modifier on. I've done this in the other version. This is an older version of this file, unfortunately. I haven't got the latest one with me. And using the 3D printing checks that are available that Blender has had for a year or so now to make sure that he's all printable in whatever material that I use. So she's going to be very happy. I'm going to be taking a block of wood, putting it underneath his feet, putting bolts through and holding him in place so that he's firmly fixed to the piece of wood and he feels nice and heavy and solid and you can't see the hole. So that's another fun little project. The only problem with the original one is that it comes with all of the eyes and pieces with it were in separate things. So I have to join them all together and tidy up the mesh considerably. It's taking a few hours to tidy it up, smooth it all out and get it to be in a printable form. The other thing we're working on doing, let's see if I can find, let that one render while I see if I can find the other one here. There is it. Sorry. Have any of you ever gotten a group with a few other guys and decided that you want to form a company? So, and then you decide you need a logo. So that's what we're currently doing at the moment. We're creating a logo for our company, so to speak. Not that it's a real one, but something to put on videos and things. And it's going to have several components to be animated. All you can see at the moment is the compositing node. This has got a lot of scenes in it here with all the different effects. We have the graphics and it has a lens in it. This is going to be, I had a version of this to show you, but I'm having trouble finding it. My apologies.
Hey, Michael, it looks like
Yep.
you're getting a question on here from Blend Engine. Have you ever used iMaterialize for 3D printing? I guess he's used Shapeways a few times before and loves it, but he's curious about the quality.
Right, I haven't used iMaterialize, and you're right, the different printers have different quality levels. The Shapeways, some of their printers are like $50,000 printers and they print at 1/10 of a millimeter, very high resolution plastics. And they also have a large variety of materials that you can print to, whether it be glass, ceramic, metal, sterling silver, copper, aluminum they come out with recently. They even have a rubber material that you can print with, and full color sandstone, which is a bit thicker and grainier, but at least it gives you full color. I've also printed on a MakerBot replicator, second generation, which is not so is not as fine as a resolution, but of course it's much faster and you can get the print out straight away. If I do stop sharing, why don't I go back to the video to full screen? How do I click this? Here we go. Can you see my face again?
That we can.
Okay, so I'm just going to show you a couple of things here. This is I can get this up the right way here. This is the right way. This is a coaster I made and designed completely in Blender with a hexagonal back using dual mesh. Some of you may have seen that trick. And using a SVG of the GE logo that I then extruded out into a mesh and embossed it or like embedded it. So it's got this thing. This is just a coaster for putting mugs on. That was done on a MakerBot replicator, and if you look up close, I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see the actual printout artifact that comes out. The printers that use the hot glue gun, they have, of course, the limitation with overhangs where things don't always print properly, and they have a limitation with the resolution is not as high. I'm not sure where iMaterialize fits from that. This here is an example of an object that I designed. It's 216 spheres that have been Boolean unioned together into this shape. And this, it's hard to see over the screen, I'm sure it's hard to tell, but yeah, the resolution is about 1/10 of a millimeter. with the plastic printing, so you can get it much finer, and plus they do polishing for you, so they can polish it up in a much smoother. Here's another item I did, which is another sort of coffee mug type thing, but with a whole thing. This was for a project called ALOC at work that I was doing, so it's a full thing. Again, this is on the Shapeways printers, and they always have lots of different colors. The problem you have with some of these printers is, like this one here, you can see all the little holes inside it. Sorry if that's out of focus. I tried printing it again, and all the holes end up getting completely plugged up. So sometimes you get inconsistent results, like here, especially underneath, you can see it's just merged together. So depending on the powder, they don't always have it completely consistent, even with the $50,000 printers. And with the smaller printers like the replicators, you have lots of issues with sometimes the spool getting stuck, and you have the hot plate underneath not being the right temperature, and the objects coming loose from it and stopping partway through. So 3D printers are an interesting technology, but they do have a lot of hiccups that happen with them sometimes. So sometimes you have to print multiple times to get it coming out right. So do I materialize? I will have to check that one out and see. But I have heard of it before, so it may have some advantages as far as printing goes. Also, if you want to get into 3D printing really cheaply, many libraries around the country have a 3D printer, like a Replicator or McSween Replicator or one of the others, and they'll let you print things for free. So very easy way to do it. The printing yourself is very cheap to print, whereas printing something through Shapeways can be a bit more expensive. You don't need to own the printer, of course, so it's cheaper that way up front. So if you're only printing one or two things, like this, I think was something on the order of $30, I think, and it's as you can see, it fits in my hand. So it's much cheaper to print with a cheaper printer, which is a coincidence. I've got a whole pile of other printed objects, but I won't bore you with showing them all. They're mostly other people's designs. I had a MakerBot Replicator on loan for about 3 weeks, where I got to print quite a lot of objects, and drive myself a bit crazy with the constant sound of the printing going on and on and on. So that's about all I had to show you guys. It was I haven't, the rest of the team members, we actually had 5 people at the meetup group today, but they've all left already because they were going early. I normally go at a certain time in the afternoon, and they've all left. So they're not here, unfortunately, to show you some of their stuff as well. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to watching a lot of the other presentations that people have got that are interested.